Hi everyone, this is Sousanna Pogosyan and welcome to the Basement Tapes. I really am a curious cat, so this is where we're gonna explore new ideas, talk about any issues, talk about life really, and where your faith takes you, whether you have faith or you don't have faith. I hope you come here with an open mind and you enjoy this episode. Welcome back everyone, welcome back to the Basement Tapes with Sousanna Pogosyan. Today, I'm not in my basement. Today, I'm in ArmComedy's basement with
you're
Narek.
Welcome to use this basement.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for being here. Narek Margaryan, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah.
You are a comedian, a screenwriter, a TV host, and is it the most longest running satire news in Armenia with ArmComedy of 12 years?
It could be one of the longest running shows because of the satiric ones, obviously, yes. But we've gone pretty long. It's been 13 years.
And how do you feel today, being here in your basement?
Yeah, I feel at home, and I want you to feel the same.
Thank you. I think I already do. We're in a space that I usually love and I'm super comfortable with. And we're also twinning.
Yeah.
We didn't plan this, anyone.
Not at all.
It just happened.
Yeah.
So my first question to you is, you have this elaborate career. You have a PhD in English. You did your round in America. You had collaborated with Conan O'Brien, which I think was a very cool moment for all us diaspora Armenians.
For myself as well.
Yeah, never forget that.
I've been a fan for a long time.
Yeah, huge fan myself. And you've been a great value to this country in regards to your show. Like, where did you always think you were going to do this? Like, when you were much, much, much younger, when when you're thinking about what you want to do when you grow up, were you always thinking like, you know what, I think I really want to expose the corruption of
not really,
of
course. But I think I've always wanted to be in sort of creative business, and I always wanted to have something to do with politics because pretty disturbingly early on reading news and getting involved, researching politics and reading the Constitution of Armenia. It wasn't healthy.
How old were you?
I think it was 13 or 14.
Oh, that's normal.
Is it? I don't know. Well, I kind of started doing but I think stand-up comedy was the first thing to draw me because at that point, you wouldn't even assume you can do a show like ours on Armenian television. Mm-hmm. It took us about 3 years of doing stand-up, and sometimes it touched upon politics and seeing the feedback that we even thought of doing something like that. And us being very inspired by shows like The Daily Show. So we made this a CD. We burned the CD.
A CD or a
You
tape?
can Google that. No, we burned the CD. It wasn't that long ago. We burned the CD and took it to all of the TV networks that were on. And they had mixed results. Some of them wanted to do a pilot. Some of them said, well, this is great. Let's do exactly this thing. Just don't mention any real politicians. And how can you do that without mentioning real politicians? Another network said, guys, do you have a day job? Keep your day jobs. Comedy is not yours. Keep doing what you do. I don't want to name the channel, but that's the reaction we got on Shant TV at the time. So despite of all that, there was a producer, he was the producer-in-chief on Arm News TV, who kind of believed in the show. He knew what it's going to be like, who believed in that and took it to TV. But before that, we were doing it on an internet TV channel, as you would assume, because that's when YouTube sort of kind of was getting more subscribers in Armenia, and people just were starting to get their news on YouTube as well.
So you never were dreaming of it's like a match made in heaven for you, right? You kind of fell or kind of paved your own road.
It's the kind of job that doesn't feel like a job because you would do it for free, and I guess that's the key to that. So. and it's harder than it looks. Actually, it takes like hours and hours of watching footage, and increasingly it's unpleasant because of the things that keep happening in Armenia. But you get better at it with time, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think, so last year I was enrolled in Birthright. It was like the last year I could be enrolled in Birthright, and they give you the opportunity to like intern for any sector. And I was like, I want to go intern with Narek and Sergey. They're like, oh, no one has ever asked for that. And I was like, okay, well, I want to go ahead and just be an intern. So when we met, and the very short amount of time that I was here, I think I was here for like a week before the news of, the Azeris attacking again and taking Stepanakert and Artsakh. At that very moment, I mean, unfortunately, as much as I wanted to stay, I had to leave immediately. I didn't even say bye. I was like, I just got the next flight out due to circumstances. But I think for me, it was very interesting that I sat with you within that week, sitting with you guys and seeing how you guys work and the amount of content you're absorbing in order to do your show every week. And even with like some of the things I've helped you with to do a little bit of research, I'm just like, okay, this is a lot. How does the average, and I would think, I'm like, does the average Armenian citizen know this information? Because me I was born in Yerevan, but my family moved to the States when I was 1, so I'm an American, right? I consider myself an Armenian American, but like I sit there and I read this information. I'm just like, let's go do something about it. Like, why isn't there like some magnitude of a movement happening? Like, you're just gonna sit here idle? That's me thinking because of the way that I guess I'm raised over there. And then I look at the citizens here and I'm like, okay, so you're giving this information to everyone, but like, is there no, like, what's the response now? And I get there's a lot of trauma that we've gone through.
People have grown to be numb, especially after the war, the 44-day war, because that's like it happened on September 27, and you would see that by September 28, everyone sort of organized. Everyone knew exactly what they were doing. There were people going to enlist, and the enlistment offices were not equipped to handle that amount of people. Others were gathering clothes, some medications, whatever was necessary. So everyone found their niche to be useful. And as for ArmComedy, we were doing these shows in English that we've done before during the 2016 war that were quite helpful, because we know for a fact that even the Minsk group co-chairs were watching these shows. So a lot of people got their information. So everyone was busy and trying to be useful as much as they can. But then obviously it ended with this huge trauma. And since then, it's been a trauma after another. So people have, I think it's a vital mechanism that works in everyone. You need to shut down to a certain degrees, just not to get crazy or anything. So people did that, and I think everyone is stuck in sort of a reality that they choose, because with the variety of the news and the outlooks on the same events that are happening, everyone's picked something that's comfortable. So you can live in this world when, we're really growing, Armenia has this bright future. You can be locked in the world where everything is doomed and nothing's going to happen. And even we have this new type of news which are just completely made up. You've obviously seen those channels that just say that Aliyev died 5 times this week, Erdogan died 6 times
which is
this
crazy
week. There was
people...
a devastating earthquake in Baku, so sort of entirely made up news cycle, but still people choose to follow that. And I use the word choose because it's a choice. I'm very sure it's a choice, because of course they're like several clicks away. So people live in these realities, and I guess the people that watch our show are more keen on critical thinking, trying to analyze, but don't want to go through the this painful analysis of the news that we get. Like it's very time consuming to watch like 3-4 outlooks of news and then to try to realize what's in the middle. And it usually what's in the middle is the truth.
So you have a strong pulse on it, obviously, because of the work, because of your interest. I mean, you made mention of like there's people that think that there's going to be a future better Armenia, and then there's those who are thinking we're all doomed. What's your perspective? Like, where do you see Armenia on, like, where are we going to be on a global, I guess, stage within the next 5 years, given the circumstances that we're in currently?
If we travel back to like November 2020, we thought that if we don't change certain things right now, we're going to be doomed for sure. And then some time passed, and there were other stages like this, and losing Artsakh was one of these stages. If we let this happen, we're going to be doomed. All of these were very good actual opportunities to change things, change the course of where we're going. But people chose not to, them being obviously threatened by war. And it's a very common thing these days, like the Prime Minister Pashinyan himself, all these MPs from his party, even the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they keep releasing news or giving quotes that a war can break out any moment. So we have people who, like, we have about 5,000 deaths and some 10,000 people who got severely injured because of that. So multiply this by families. This affected all of. So there is hardly an Armenian who has not been affected by this. And then being constantly threatened by this repeating at a larger scale, probably in Yerevan, this is going to, scare the shit out of many people. That's why people just don't rock the boat. That's basically the approach that we've taken ever since 2020. But at any point, if we rock the boat enough for things to change, there could have been opportunities that led to a sort of a much better resolution, like not losing Artsakh at all, having the population there, not losing lands from Germany. I can go on, and we're not stopping. So in this cycle, as far as we go with these guys, I guess it's going to be worse. But the closer we get, I think more people wake up, because we had this very large rally in May where Bagrat Sargsyan gathered all these people, and there was a lot of people. There was just as much people as when the revolution happened. So we see that people don't want to take this much longer, but also we see that they're not that keen on getting out and doing it themselves. Everyone would rather prefer for some other people to settle this, and they'd be happy with the outcome. But this direct involvement, as we had it in 2018, is kind of yet to be obtained.
It's been like a few years now. Do you get the sense that people are waking up slowly?
Yeah, well, mind that any other opposition rally since 2020 hasn't even gotten like the quarter of the number of the people that were there. So yes.
So where is he now? Why are there no?
I don't know.
Where did the rallies
I think
go?
the authorities are very good at killing these movements as well, sort of dropping enough lies up to the point that everyone finds a lie that suits them or seems plausible. Like they would say that Sargsyan is connected to Russia.
Yeah.
So Russia haters can use that. They would say he's Kocharian's man, so Kocharian haters can take that bait, sort of throw everything that's there, and then some of it 6,000 to 5,000 people, some of it 6,000 to 10,000 people. But in the end, you sort of wear it down. You wear the movement down. But the positive thing, because I want to say something positive as well, is that every time, you kind of settle it down, the next one is going to be bigger. And we've seen it during Serge Sargsyan's reign, like the latest one being this Satiric thing when basically terrorists captured hostages, and this military police this department, and it was very big, like compared to Electric Yerevan that was before, and the other projects that were. And the next one that followed it was the big one of the 2018. So even if it's surpassed, it still takes a resource out. It drains the resources of the authorities.
Yeah, you need a little bit more time to like re-strategize yourself, I guess. I don't know. But so I find that ArmComedy is pretty vital to the culture and to the understanding of what is going on, and adding to the transparency of what people need to know. What do you see, like what do you imagine ArmComedy's future look like? I mean, you can't stop the show.
Let's travel back to April of 2018, the revolution happening. And those were actually the days when it happened. I was walking the street and people would approach me and say, well, now you have to find a new job. You can't do it anymore, right? Because the good thing happened.
Wow.
The perfect government has landed.
Wow.
A government that will not do any mistakes. Now, well, I wish they were right, but it felt even back then that they we all wanted to hope for something good, or at least something not as terrible, which is like a very modest thing to ask. But so now if, let's say, opposition succeeds and there's another government, I'm very safe for my...
I think you're going to have a long-term...
For my employment is kind of secure.
Yeah. But do you see yourself growing like ArmComedy in that case? Like, do you see it moving in a different direction? Like, do you envision it in any other way? Or you're like, you know what, I'm pretty good. I'm happy with what I'm making. Just like, do you have any inspirations to change anything?
Other than that, I do a lot of work with screenwriting, which is something I want to pursue. Not to say that I would stop ArmComedy, but well, of course you want to learn and try new things, and I've been doing that ever since, for the last 10 years, I guess. Writing movies, sitcoms, learning how to write, because much of this knowledge is in Hollywood, and you can get books, you can get online courses, kind of develop, but to really start it, you have to be there, and it's very clear and very obvious. I'm not ready to make that move. I don't want to make that move, but I want to pursue it as much as you possibly can from here.
What stories do you think are truly important and vital to be told about Armenia or Armenians to the world as a screenwriter?
To be quite honest, I'm not one of those guys that want to just, concentrate on the Armenian things of all, because I think...
Because there's directors and writers that focus on that a lot.
Yeah, write what you know. That's one of the main rules. But people, I think, take it to extreme and try to make everything about Armenia.
Yeah.
But there's a very modest interest towards Armenia. I've been involved in projects like that myself. Like there is this historic TV series about Cilicia, which I wrote the pilot to, and it's meant for a broader audience. It's in English, and it's not just only about the Armenian side, but there's other factions, as the Europeans, the Knights Templar, the Mamelukes, and of course our king Hatum escaping and meeting the Genghis Khan's kind of faction. So it's like a very kind of Game of Thrones-y thing, with a little grain of Armenia at the center of it, because it was a unique time when we were in this amidst this clash of civilizations. But other than that, I want to pursue comedy. That's what I think I'm good at, and that what makes me sort of want to write more. And there are projects like one we discussed in particular, things that can have like a grain of Armenianness in it, but don't be entirely centered, that look at our very peculiar culture, because that's, I think, also the proper way to do it, because when you do just about Armenia, you limit the audience very much. But I mean, just think about it, how much we learned, let's say, about the Italians just watching Friends because one of the characters was
Yeah.
Joey, and there was maybe like 3 episodes dedicated to the thing that he was Italian, but
Yeah.
still you learn these things.
Who's your favorite comic? I have 2 questions. Who was your favorite comic growing up, and who's your favorite comic now that like?
No, I think
stand up?
once you pick your absolute favorite, you pretty
There's no
much
going back?
stick to it. And to me, it's been George Carlin. Obviously, there are many things that I was watching growing up here. I spent some years in Russia. There are some great comedians there, but I think the one who's like the most inspiration and I think has led this to perfection to me is George Carlin.
It's George. Did you ever have the chance to see him live?
Oh no, I wish I had, but he passed away too soon for us to get the chance to go. Maybe there are a lot of great guys doing it now. I really want to see Louis C.K. live. That's another one of the greats.
Yeah.
So I'll try to catch when we travel to
Back to the
Los
States.
Angeles. Yeah,
Definitely.
it's only Los Angeles. I don't think there's much more. Armenians are so centered there that you hardly. Although we've been in Boston with the show, we were in San Francisco. But
Fresno.
No, I've never been to
There's
Fresno.
a ton of Armenians in
I
Fresno.
know, I heard, but
never
never
been.
performed there. So yeah.
What's your plan for like the next year in regards to your comedy or any shows that you want the audience to know if they want to catch you in Sergey? Or are you a one-man show?
The plan is that we come in January 2025, I guess, with a new show that we're working on. That's the plan. I'm not very confident because it's changed a couple of times. There's that. We want to do one in Armenia as well. We're working on some sitcom projects in Armenian for the local market. Some shows about a show about an Armenian tech startup, which is kind of something I don't think anyone here touched upon, how peculiar the Armenian startups can be. And I've been talking to basically every CEO, every major CEO and founder I could get my hands on here in Yerevan, and they were sharing stories. So this is like a mixture of things, and sometimes so bizarre, but they actually happened. So it's gonna be all put into a pile and at the premise of this show.
So I'm guessing you've seen Silicon Valley on HBO.
Oh yeah, sure, of course.
So I'm very familiar with that
Silicon
show.
Valley is about the things that can only happen in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, this is like the Armenian edition.
Yeah, and we have so many things that can happen only in Armenia, like the show. Let me do a very
brief
spoiler. Like the show starts at them getting this huge investment of money, and they're arguing whether to do a press release about it or not. And one of the arguments against it is all my relatives will find out that we got all this money and we'll start at. So this is not something that could be used in Silicon Valley because what the hell? Nobody even knows who's there.
No one thinks like that.
Yeah, so they are very Armenian things that only work here, and that's what we want to concentrate on.
I'm looking forward to that. I did work as a tech recruiter for 5 years, and I worked in obviously the U.S. market, but there was a time where I would get a flood of LinkedIn messages by software engineers in Yerevan.
Because you have this last name that sounds very Armenian.
Yeah, and it was interesting, something about the tech world. So there's a lot of, as the world knows, there's a lot of Indians in the tech industry. Yeah. And we had, the U.S. market had the opportunity, and still does, to hire Indian, tech engineers directly from India, or have recently had their OPT visas approved in the U.S. And throughout my time working in that industry, I was like, look, if the Indians can do it, why are the Armenians not doing this? Because I have a flood of guys that I could definitely slot them in. They have the skill set. Yeah. However, they're not allowed paper-wise. Why
is that?
I don't know. That's why I'm just like, I'm very confused. And I would be asking them, well, like, do you have a OPT visa or do you have a green card, or like you need to give me something to work with. And I noticed a trend that there's like a lack of opportunity for them within the U.S. market versus like the Indians. And like, don't come after me. If you still work in the industry and it's changed, I'm not.
She will do literally nothing for you.
I'm not sure. I mean, I have a few friends that still work in the industry, but I noticed this trend and I was like, man, we have great talent here, yet they're limited in the market. And I'm very curious if you're gonna write about that aspect, because there is that whole side to things.
No, in the show, we're the ones who get an Indian guy to work for us. So it's not the other way. It's a double-edged sword. I mean, on one thing, it's such a good opportunity for all these families. On the other hand, you lose your entire middle class in Armenia if it's also easy and everyone can get this visa, OPT, or whatever other abbreviation you used. So if it becomes really easy, you will lose.
There would be no tech industry in Armenia.
Probably not.
Everyone would leave. And I know there was like talks of like Amazon opening up a hub here and whatnot a few years back. And then I'm just like, where is it though? Where is it?
Amazon
was that fake news?
It sounds like a lot of bullshit. Like think
we were
about
all
it.
Excited.
We are a country that has closed borders with 2 of its neighbors. So it can only sell to Armenia and Georgia and to Russia, which is banned for Amazon. So only to Georgia. So why on earth would you open it in Armenia and not in Georgia, who has no problem with Russia, no problem with Azerbaijan, no problem with Armenia. So all their other borders are open.
But you remember that, right?
Plus they have a sea. Like, who in his right mind would pick Armenia over Georgia in this scenario when Amazon thought of coming? And I mean, it's not just necessarily a good thing, because there were so many businesses, and there are the stories I heard from Dubai and other Middle Eastern. When Amazon came, it killed so many of their local businesses. They were kind of doing the same.
That's what it does.
And they were like so big on the market that they seemed unstoppable, and then Amazon just squashed them within a year.
Mm-hmm. I worked for Amazon for a year. I think I'm allowed to say that, but it's massive. It's like the biggest monster I've ever met, and then I had to leave. Actually, they let me go. Thank God, because
You want to talk about it?
I don't. I have like PTSD from it. So it's been like 2 years, and
How
I'm
do
so
you
traumatized.
order stuff then?
I don't.
You don't use Amazon?
I have the app, and I do have Prime just to watch a few shows.
The Boys?
No,
that's the best thing on
The Voice, Marvelous Miss Maisel, and like other random stuff. But I don't like ordering through Amazon. I try to avoid them as much as I can, and I'm not a fan.
You're an eBay girl.
Oh my God, I used to be when I was like 12. But
Then you got fired from eBay.
No, I'm just like, I'm stuck in like 1999. I like going to the store and picking out stuff. Yeah. So speaking of like monsters and like, these massive corporate and governments and blah, 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 I just want to get like to a personal note. When it comes down to like faith and belief, where do you stand when it comes down to
with my
personal...
church, which is the Armenian Apostolic Church. And look, even my name was kind of tricky back when they gave me that name, because mine, that it was the Soviet Union, it was 1983, and Armenia being probably the most religiously free country of all the Soviet Republic, still kind of, there aren't many Nareks that are older than me. It was kind of too religious at the time, but my father thought that would be a great name. And then Narek got trendy in the 90s. There was like,
I have a bunch of friends named
everyone
Narek,
was Narek. Armenians get this trend, and now everyone was Alex a couple of years ago. Now everyone is Mark, sort of, I was Narek before it was cool, so I got baptized early on, and I've been following my religion, just like any other. I mean, you get a certain like calm and certain how to say it, certain there's certainty in this church, because you've seen it for so many centuries, enduring all sorts of things, wars, genocides, being torn down, new republics coming to change the other, and our church endured through all that. So I think at this point is one of the few constants that we have in our life. So yeah, I would like to keep it that way.
Yeah, no, I love your answer. It's one of the oldest churches. And I think I don't know how it is in Armenia, but I know in America there's this like, I call it a semi-epidemic. A lot of people won't agree with me. Is that a lot of American Armenian kids born and raised in America, there's a language barrier between the person and the church. And when you enter into an Armenian Apostolic Church and you go to Divine Liturgy, and every Sunday it's like this beautiful, beautiful liturgy and like service available to you, a lot of like the American kids walk in there and they don't understand one word, right? Because I still believe it's in classical Armenian, the Divine Liturgy, and the hymns and everything. There's a completely lack of understanding. So a lot of Americans, like, you know, between ages of, let's say, like 13 to like maybe in their 40s or whatnot, depending on where you are with your faith, they'll walk into an Armenian church because they're Armenian. They'll sit there for like an hour, be very confused, not understand a thing, not understanding each notion of like why are they like all of a sudden kissing each other, the kiss of peace. They don't know it. There's no education or foundation of it, and they leave and they go to a Protestant church, a Baptist church, a non-denominational church, which I don't know what that is. There's all these different denominations that they'll enter. Why? Because the English language is not, it can't be in the English. I mean, we can, but it loses its magic if you translate it.
No, of course, you're not supposed to, I think.
Yeah, and then so there's this, like I said, like there's this like thing right now happening, which I've observed this at a very young age since I was 13, because like my family does not have the most religious background. Okay, Soviet Union really did a toll on them. So when I was like 8 years old, I had my black friend Dominique in elementary. She's like, "Hey, Sus, what you doing on Sunday?" I was like, "Nothing." She's like, "You want to go to church with me?" I'm like, "What's that?" So all of a sudden, I'm going to this non-denominational church with my black friend, and then I kind of grew up in the Protestant church until my dad found out. Like, he's like, "What are you doing? You're baptized in the Armenian church. You have a mother church. Go figure it out." And I was like, "Oh," that kind of woke me up. And I was only able to find one priest, Yerevan State, who was holding English Bible studies and explaining things in English. And it took me a full year of being close with him, or like attending to his Bible studies and going to Divine Liturgy and reading. And really, you have to put effort.
Also, what is this obsession with us Armenians? Whatever country we travel to, we want to go to the local Armenian church. And sure, I was going to say sure as hell, but it's not very appropriate. But you're certain to find one. Like that's like
every corner of the world.
Venice, like how small is Venice? Like tiny. You could walk it within an hour, but still there was an Armenian church. We just been to Estonia, and there was a very small, newly opened Armenian church over there. And it's kind of this thing that really is at the core of our Armenian identity. It's 100%. One of the things. And it's sometimes funny that when we speak, we start saying, "Well, did you know who's the first Christian state in the world?"
But
it kind of works naturally. Like my wife called me, like I'm talking Spanish with a Spanish taxi driver, and within 10 minutes, I'm telling that our church, our Christian church, yes, was the first, and sort of trying to explain to this Spanish taxi driver what the name Narek que mi nombre significa, and and she's like, why are you doing this? But I guess that's kind of,
you can't help it.
We feel like we want to like raise awareness because we're so small, and we also feel that it's not just us being overly proud, but wherever you go, Madrid, Barcelona, Rome, Venice, the tiny Venice, you still find an Armenian church there. And we were having one of our priests who's very active on social media recently, and we asked him about how it goes that this churches all over the world, and he said, "You know how many priests the Armenian church has?" And we had like 5,000, 6,000, 800 people who cover entire planet, from Australia to Argentina to Canada to Russia and
India,
that's
everywhere.
Amazing.
The goal of Yerevan State being the priest of the Armenian Church for over 40 years, God willing, he's finally has the chance to translate and educate those in the diaspora about the Armenian Church in English. And another cool thing is, if you go to it's called Apostle, like electronic ministry, like of the Armenian Church. We're using AI actually to translate all his videos on YouTube. And so far we have translations in French, in Korean, in Russian, in Portuguese, and in German. And our goal is to be able to close this gap that you're talking about.
And getting back on tech, at this exhibition last year, there was an Armenian app that would translate into multiple languages using your voice. So if you add this to this, it will also be in French and in his voice.
I am going to show you exactly. That is the exact technology we're using, and it's wild how good it is. So we have a disclaimer in front of every video, like, this is not that Vazgen speaking in Spanish. This is AI.
He's not that good at this many languages,
But it's so cool, and we just launched that like 3 weeks ago. So our goal is to kind of spread the awareness that, like, hey, even if you're in Brazil and you're speaking Portuguese and you want to know about the Armenian Church, well, now we're building.
Who is this man that goes konnichiwa, ohayo gozaimasu,
arigato, like all of it. So we're really excited, and I just want to thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate you. I think you're like a really cool guy, and I think what you're doing is really cool. And any last words that you want to tell the audience
before the execution?
Yeah, before the goodbye.
I don't know. I want everyone to follow Armenia closer and be more open-minded about it, because so many times in diaspora I've seen some preconceived notions about things that they really haven't had any exposure to, but they already have a formed opinion about. So just be more open-minded, and most importantly, come visit, because like following the news, knowing the language, going to the church on Sundays, it's all fine, but come visit Armenia, and make sure your kids come visit Armenia, and they'll fall in love just like you did, right?
Yeah. I have this beautiful love and hate relationship, but sometimes it teeter-totters depending on the day.
Yeah, but most of the hate relationships towards the taxi drivers. Like, you exclude the taxi drivers, you mostly love Armenia, right?
Yeah, that, and you guys have great food, let me tell you. Very organic.
Yeah, well,
an LA girl's dream.
I will not return the compliment to the American food.
We don't deserve that compliment. Well, thank you so much again. Thank you for having me in your basement, and tune in. Where do they follow you? On
ArmComedy
Instagram.
is on YouTube primarily, but
Yes.
also Instagram and Facebook and even TikTok, which is it banned in the United States?
Not yet. No, I don't think. I thought it was going to be, and it's not.
Follow us on YouTube. Like that's too many times.
And you also
just
have
subscribe.
a podcast.
Subscribe. Every watch from YouTube equals money as well from the United States, as opposed to watches from Armenia. We don't get anything from
what they're doing to you
watches
over
in
here?
Armenia. So watch. If you are in the United States, watch, like, subscribe.
Subscribe, and then also your podcast, Lush.
Lurchcast, yeah, we try to have like brilliant minds, interesting people, sometimes controversial people over there, but it's like a discussion, a place to speak your mind, I guess.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Narek.
Thank you.
And bye.